Good morning, Safari Mack fans, and welcome back to Safari Mack Explores North America. I'm your guide and your host, helping you make connections to the wild. First of all, I hope each and every one of you had a very happy holidays and are getting ready to let go of 2023 as we get ready to enter 2024. Well, I know I certainly am, and right now I don't have any resolutions at the moment. Just continuing to do what I do, and just to continue to help people make connections to the wild, I guess. But for right now, let's finish off 2023 in Virginia with the North American river otter, and be sure to stay tuned at the end of today's episode for the reveal of next year's special animal that will help us kickstart 2024. But if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's head back to the water. Let's talk about the wild things. Now, you may remember that last week I mentioned how North American river otters can be found all over the place, including the North American coastal areas, right? But this has led to confusion or mistaken identity with sea otters. Now, here, with today's episode, I'm going to help explain to you a couple of major differences. One of the major differences is where they're found. Like I said, you can find river otters just almost everywhere in North America, especially up in the Canadian country, Canada. But now, sea otters are only found in the ocean along the Pacific North American West, which goes from Southern California all the way through Alaska, even going into parts of Russia, as well as near some other spots in Asia. So talk about a major long line. Another major difference between sea otters and river otters is especially with how they swim. When sea otters are up at the surface, they always kind of float on their backs, exposing their bellies. River otters always swim the opposite direction. They swim with their bellies facing the bottom, facing the river or water floor. Now, another major difference is how big they are. Sea otters are roughly around 3 to 5 feet long, and in terms of food, remember how I said that the river otter eats around 15 to 20% of their body weight every day just to survive? Sea otters actually eat up to 30% of their body weight in food every day. Talk about major differences, huh? Now, here's a pretty special wild thing I bet you didn't know about river otters. Now, we know that they lead a semi-aquatic lifestyle, but believe it or not, river otters tend to spend 2/3 of their lives on the land, not in the water. Only 1/3 of their life is in the water. So it's pretty interesting with that. So sometimes names are misleading, but hey, things are not always as they seem. Now, a major cool thing about otters, whether they're sea or river, is about their hair. Now, this coat is what allows them to keep warm, and especially in very frigid waters. This is why you may see otters, whether they're sea or river otters, constantly kind of keeping themselves clean. The thing is, they have to keep their fur clean so that it can hold bubbles, which the trapped air does act like a kind of blanket, or what in science calls insulation, which helps them stay warm. So I guess you could say that these are some of the few animals that always have to get cleaned up before they go out to play. And now another major thing that's cool about otters, now their fur, it has 156,000 hairs per square inch. So talk about brushing their fur. But now a major thing about river otters is that they are what you call an indicator species. What that means is that that's a group of animals that can tell you a lot about the environment that they're living in. See, if you've seen river otters in your area, that's good. That means that your riverways or your waterways are clean and are healthy. So now, unfortunately, though, this makes them a bit of a sensitive animal, and that, unfortunately, is leading to a little bit of some problems that they're facing. along with some other threats and challenges that they continuously face today. But first, let's go back to the beginning when America was just kind of getting itself started. So I'm talking about like after the Revolutionary War, America has been declared and we are going west, right? We're pushing back the frontier. It's manifest destiny. You couldn't find it and neither could I. We wanted to expand, right? Now, that may have been good at the time, and at the time, North America was plenty rich in many resources. Furs and many different animals were hunted that served to become coats or hats, basically very luxury items, right? And they were passing through all this wonderful wilderness, but they didn't really see it that way. Unfortunately, they had different plans, and unfortunately, it's led to some problems. The loss of their habitat, the polluting of their rivers, and the loss of many other animals, like some of their prey items, and even the killing of these creatures, led to somewhat steep, dramatic declines. So, remember how I just said earlier that the river otter can tell us if our environment is healthy or not? Without them around, that means our waterways are really unhealthy, and that they're not only facing challenges, but we will face challenges too. So a big question to ask ourselves: what will the environment do if these indicator species disappear? What will we do? Thankfully, though, there is hope. As always, as I've said all year, there is always hope. Now, the river otter, it may seem like they're going to become an endangered species, like their cousins, the sea otters, but believe it or not, they're actually doing pretty well for themselves. River otters have made a good comeback thanks to the Clean Water Act, as we began to clean up waterways and restore habitat. Otters and other animals like amphibians and other food sources and just other important creatures in the environment just began to make a comeback. So it really was a great thing that we've done, and we need to continue this. But now, how can you at home, or wherever you live, how can you help river otters today? Well, there's a number of things that you can do. First of all, if you see somebody that's just throwing water, like really dirty water, down like a storm drain area or like a a storm water area, that's bad. Report it. You should always report it if you can, but do it safely so that you don't have any conflict with whoever's maybe doing it. Now, it's not like that they're doing it on purpose. They may not know any better. Just like back then, we didn't know any better, but now we do, and we're trying to create a better future for all these creatures that we share our world with. But what else can you do? If you have because river otters can transmit rabies and other diseases, if you need to remove otters, because they're either posing as a danger to you or your family or to themselves, don't try and do it yourself, and don't approach them. Don't ever approach any wild animal unless you're really specifically trained by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services, which really, that would require the rangers or nuisance wildlife people coming out to help remove them themselves, which it's a lot safer, as these creatures, they don't like to be touched, and they can bite. Their bite can really crush bone, so you're really better off just leaving them alone or calling somebody that is a professional to do it. As always, by doing that, you're not only helping river otters, but you're helping all the animals that share their world, that they share their habitat with. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank all of you for continuing to show your support throughout the entire year by following me around the world, from where we started in Asia, through Africa, across the Atlantic Ocean, then to South America, and currently in North America. I would like to leave you with the end of the year by telling you that I will see you next year as we take to the North American skies looking for the king, the bald eagle. But until then, as always, hit the like and subscribe button. Check out my Facebook page for conservation project updates, as well as other things from all over the world. And send me an email if you have questions or have requests. But until next year, this is Safari Mack, and I'll see you all out there.